Hello, everyone, from the Matt Morris Digital Studio here in Fresno on this Monday with the sports director of KC24, CBS47, and the voice of the FCC Rams, Scott Bemis. I am Dean Shiro, trying to get it all in. I know you had a busy weekend. Tell me a little about it.
What an introduction, Dean. Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Now, you were busy rooting on my school, right?
I was.
This weekend down at the Coliseum.
Let's show your picture first. So there's Scotty and Shannon Polium getting ready to call the game, the FCC versus, was it Diablo Valley?
Sierra College. So that's in Rockland, which is about 20 miles northeast of Sacramento. Quaint little facility there. Very nice, though. Very nice. Perfect for junior college football. Seats probably about 2,000 total. And there were probably 1,500 people there. So, a pretty good atmosphere, good crowd, great game. Fresno City ended up coming back from a 14-point fourth quarter deficit to win 41-38. So got to call a good one on Saturday.
Fantastic. Well, I was down at the Coliseum. Look at, there's me and the boys. We got to get on the field. I want to thank my friend Steve Mascarenas, who got us down there for the first half. We got to see almost the whole first half down there, and then we had very cool seats for the second half as well. Got to see Georgia Southern again. They actually look better this week.
You're a Georgia Southern expert.
I am now. I got to meet a lot of people from that area, and they stayed the whole week.
By the way, what's your oldest son's name?
Joey. Joey, and then Nick at the bottom.
Shout out to Joey for rocking the Fresno Grizzlies hat right there.
Yeah, he was a little upset I didn't have a USC hat for him, but I'll have one for him next game. I said, Uncle Scott didn't come through for us on that one.
Yeah, I figured you dropped my name to get on the sideline at SC,
It worked. Look where we're at. No, my friend Steve Mascarenas got us on, and we had a great time.
I mean, I've donated a good $50 to $100 to the school over the years, so I'm sure I'm big time over there.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we had a blast. It was a lot of fun, so it was really, really cool. Got to see USC hammer Georgia State. But let's get into our first game here. So Fresno State goes up to Corvallis and has a nice comeback win. It looked like it was a little bleak there with about 2 minutes left. They're down, 26-20, what was the score?
26-21,
right?
Well,
no,
Oregon State was down 26-21. They scored to go up 27-26.
Right.
They went for two, didn't get it.
Right.
I mean, they didn't convert a conversion point all game long.
That seemed like the theme of the day, right?
Oh, man, what a weird game up in Corvallis this weekend, right? All the special teams issues that Oregon State had, it just shows you how important special teams is to a game and how important a long snapper is. Yeah. We take it for granted, right? Matt Entz at his press conference just now, he was asked how many long snappers does he have on his roster, kind of sarcastically, right? He said, we have 3 long snappers. Well, Oregon State's top long snapper was out for that game, and one of the backups was in long snapping, and apparently he had experience. Apparently he was their main long snapping guy from what Coach Entz said at the press conference today from last year. But boy, it was almost like a golfer with the yips or a second baseman with the yips.
Was he also the punt snapper too?
He was also the punt snapper.
Because we all know what happened in the first half, right?
There was a weird, there was that snap. The funny thing is, the touchdown for Fresno State on that punt, that botched punt, that was actually an okay snap.
That was the punter.
The punter mishandled that snap. All the other snaps were bad. They were bounced to it, on like the 3 extra points, and there was another punt where the punter short hopped it and went down to the ground.
Right.
But I mean, consider yourself fortunate if you're Fresno State that happened.
Right.
But Fresno State was ready to take advantage of it, made some big special teams plays. Remember, they had a kick return called back, too. A Rayshawn Luke kick return touchdown was called back.
Absolutely.
Kind of a dicey holding call, if you ask me. It was borderline.
Fair enough.
And then Dylan Lynch, right? Dylan Lynch. Happy for Dylan Lynch.
Oh, my God. That was so great. That was so great, him knocking that in with a lot of pressure, under a minute left to give them the lead. And then Oregon State gets the ball back, and you get the pick 6 to wrap it up. So the score, really wasn't indicative of the game at all. But kudos to Fresno State for going up into a tough environment and getting a big W, right?
Well, I think this speaks to what Matt Entz is bringing to this program, is that it may not always look pretty, but they're going to stay in games, I think, all year long. They're going to play probably a lot of tight games when they go up against equal type of talent. To be honest with you, I think Oregon State kind of controlled the flow of the game a little bit more than Fresno State did overall, but the Bulldogs kept that lead for most of the game, and as we said, this Bulldog team is going to be a tough team to beat when they're playing from in front, and they don't make a bunch of mistakes. They didn't make any mistakes. They let Oregon State make the big mistakes, right? Late with the special teams, and then the interception late, and things like that. And before you know it, you get out of there with a win. That's a really good win for Fresno State and for this coaching staff here and this program at this point. I think it really kind of builds a lot of energy and excitement around this program now as we head into a Southern game this week where on paper at least should be a W for the Dogs.
Right.
You never want to count it until they play the game.
That game will be on CBS 47. Scott's got the pregame show for that.
The whole sports team, Angelique, myself, and Dylan will be live from Valley Children's Stadium starting at 6:30, a half-hour pregame. And then, as you mentioned, the game will be broadcast on CBS 47. So looking forward to that.
Also, it'll be on this app, too, by the way. It'll be on the CBS 47 KC24 Plus app, so you can watch it there, too. We're going to get in a little bit more on this Oregon State game. Scott was talking about calls, so we are going to come in hot. All right, right back to this game, Scotty. We were talking a little bit before we started taping here and going live. There was a questionable targeting call, and basically I want to get into the whole targeting rule with you. So you go over the call, and then let's go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who watched the Fresno State game saw the hit by Kavion Thunderbird on one of the Oregon State receivers in the third quarter. It was originally ruled a fumble on the field. It would have been a huge play because Oregon State was going in, and it would have been a huge turnover. The Fresno State had the lead at that point. They didn't throw a flag on the play, right? But then apparently they reviewed it, looked at it, and determined that it was targeting. So after the fact, they gave a 15-yard penalty against Fresno State. And not only, does that mean an automatic first down for the Beavers, but that also meant that Kavion Thunderbird, who was having a very good game for Fresno State and has been a real impact player at linebacker in the last two games for the Bulldogs, was ejected. And he's going to miss also the first half of the Southern game this week. Mm-hmm. You have to miss one half of football in addition to the half that you're playing in, basically. My thoughts on this, Dean, are targeting is a tough call. Right. And I understand what they're trying to do. And I actually think it's been very effective with it being a 15-yard personal foul and with the harsh penalties that come along with it as far as getting ejected if they rule that it is targeting, that it really has gotten defensive players thinking about how they go about hitting guys and defenseless players, as they like to say, and not launching themselves and not leading with your head and all those things. Right. And so I think overall it's been good. They've kind of reprogram defensive players in a way to think a little differently. And I think that's good for the overall health of football and the safety of football players. But there's sometimes where there's things are very hard to tell if it really was targeting. Plus, a defensive player, if he's trying to do the right thing, which is I think what Kavion Thunderbird was trying to do on this hit, he didn't lead with his head, the crown of his helmet.
Right,
he led with the shoulder, which is, to me, kind of what they teach you to do, as long as you don't launch up in the air and go after somebody's head and neck. He was leaning down. I think he was going for the midsection of the receiver. But after the receiver caught the ball, it's a bang-bang play, right? The receiver will lower his head at that point, right? So Kavion's already committed to throwing the shoulder in there, right? Now the receiver puts his head down, and so Kavion sort of grazes. It looks like he kind of grazes the helmet a little bit, or the head and neck area, and then delivers a blow to like the rest of the body. They called it targeting. I think by the letter of the law, it's probably the correct call by the letter of the law. But the rule needs to be changed if this is targeting. If that's what's going to be targeting and get a player ejected from the game and then missing the first half of a following game, you only get 12 games as a college football player. These are special times, right? This is too much for one that's questionable. Sure, we see targeting calls all the time, Dean. No doubt about it, it's targeting. A safety will launch in the air, either with his head or his shoulder, and go head hunting on somebody, right? A defenseless receiver as he's going up for the ball. Sure. That needs to be legislated out of the game, and that player should be ejected. But there should be degrees of targeting, and a player shouldn't lose a whole first half of the following game for trying to make a good football play, because I think that's what Thunderbird was trying to do. So I think they need to look at this targeting thing and kind of come up with degrees of targeting in some way.
And the interesting thing on these is they review all these calls. They review them in very thorough at the game. My question to you then is, once they review it and they still deem it, do you feel like suspending them for whether it's the first half or the second half should be enough? Or should that be enough, even if it is a true targeting call, or should they also get penalized for the next game? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the suspension or missing a game,
ejection, whatever you want to call it,
has had an impact. That I think defensive players are aware of that. And I mean, sometimes to get rid of something, because for years and years and years, football players were trained to do it differently, right? Just go in, kamikaze, and just, lead with your head, all that stuff. Jack Tatum and all that stuff. But I I don't mind it for the egregious targeting call for getting ejected, but I think there should be a degree, where you say, okay, all right, maybe this was by the letter of the law targeting, but the defensive player was trying to do the right thing. I wouldn't even mind if they used a judgment call and say like, hey, where was he intending to hit the receiver, right? Or whoever it is catching the ball, or the quarterback or whatever.
Whoever.
Where was the intention? Because if he launches himself with his shoulder going towards the midsection, and then after he's launched himself, the receiver brings his head down and then he happens to hit his head, to me that shouldn't be targeting, because what does targeting mean? You're targeting a certain area. Well, at that point, the defensive player is not targeting the head at that point. He's targeting the midsection, and the offensive player puts his head down, right? By the way, Stephen Comstock made a very good point on Bulldog Insider last night. We were talking about this.
Sure.
He said, you know what? Everybody forgets, too, that defensive players have to protect themselves as well, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure, yes, a receiver is more defensive in that situation because he's looking at the football and everything else. But a defensive player is going in there full speed with a hit as well.
Right.
He needs to protect himself, especially if that guy's putting his head down towards him, right? So it's a tough thing. Cam Worrell was super passionate about this on the radio broadcast. He, doesn't understand it. He was yelling and screaming, and I kind of get where Cam's coming from.
All right. Well, I want to get into one other thing when it relates to officiating. Over the weekend and late last week, we saw a couple of incidents where players are spitting on players now. There was an incident in South Florida. By the way, how about South Florida? We'll mention them in a minute. Scotty had them, by the way. The South Florida upset of Florida, where it prolonged a drive, where actually a Florida player spat on a South Florida offensive lineman, got a 15-yard penalty, got ejected from the game. I think my thing is I want to see more severe punishments to prevent this kind of stuff. There's no place in the game for spitting on somebody. I would like to see possibly a further suspension, kind of like the targeting rule, with incidents like spitting. It's just not... It's not okay. These coaches, and they should be teaching their players not to do it. They should not let their players play if they're doing it. So what are your thoughts really quick on it?
Well, I think you summed it up perfectly. I mean, What are we doing? Why we're spitting on people, out there? I mean, and that's such the ultimate sign of like disrespect, and it's disgusting, right?
Happened in the Eagles game, I believe, too.
Jalen Carter, obviously, the same thing with the Eagles.
Yeah.
That one was just unexplainable because, first off, it's Jalen Carter, right, who's had a little bit of a checkered past, right, with some things. So he needs to be on his best behavior.
Yes.
Right? And for him to do that, I mean, I'll give him credit for coming out immediately, saying, man, my bad. That was no place for that, and I apologize, and everything else. So give him credit for showing maturity as far as that goes. I think you said it perfectly.
Okay.
I mean, let's just get rid of this.
Yeah.
I mean, let's stop doing it.
No,
I mean, come on, guys.
No place in sports for that kind of behavior, honestly, and it should be severely punished. So we'll leave it there. All right, let's get into a couple of the big college football games, then we'll get to the NFL. So I know Scott was very busy, but I'm sure he saw highlights. Oklahoma beats Michigan, in Norman. John Mateer, one of your potential underdog Heisman candidates, had a hell of a game. So let's talk a little bit about Oklahoma.
I tell you what, that's probably the ticket that I like the most. So I do have a ticket on John Mateer from my time in Kansas, where I could bet legally there to win the Heisman. I think it was 20 or 22 to 1, something like that. So for those of you guys who don't know, John Mateer was the quarterback at Washington State last year, and he's a great dual threat guy. I mean, I think Washington State weren't they like undefeated or something pretty late in the season last year, I think, with him at quarterback.
They were very good.
Yeah. They were actually in the playoff conversation.
Yeah,
for
Jake
a while
Dickert, the former coach, now I think Wake Forest was his.
So you put him in at Oklahoma, right? Combine that with a very solid defense. I also thought Bryce Underwood was going to struggle in that game. I happened to watch a Big Ten in 60 from the first game.
Sometimes that's the best way to catch up.
Yeah, with Michigan against New Mexico. And although Michigan got away with the win there, Underwood had moments where he looked like a freshman. And so I thought, you know what, he's going to struggle a little bit probably against Oklahoma.
Right.
Almost made it a play. Should have in hindsight, but I didn't pull the trigger on it. But yeah, it's, I think college football is better when Oklahoma's good.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like when Michigan's good or Texas is good or Alabama's good or Ohio State's good. It's, I'm surprised that they haven't had more success since Venables took over there, but they might have the right quarterback in play now to really make some noise in the SEC.
Yeah, and let's talk about another one of your predictions that is looking really, really good right now. We kind of mentioned it earlier. South Florida goes to Gainesville and beats Florida. This is 2 weeks in a row they've beaten a ranked opponent. They beat Boise State at home week 1. Now they go to the Swamp and they beat Florida. South Florida. And Alex Galesh, right? I believe that's his name.
I think you're saying that right.
How about that?
I mean, we got another school in South Florida that's good, right? You know, another school in Florida that's good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I had them as a sleeper, to win their conference. I still didn't expect this, though. I didn't expect them to come out and beat Boise, then beat Florida in back-to-back weeks. I mean, that seat's getting pretty hot, right, for Billy Napier. This is not what he needed.
Very warm.
Right now. Yeah, give it up for South Florida. South Florida's got like a pretty tough game this week as well, right?
Isn't it Miami or something?
Yeah.
I think it's Miami, but their quarterback, Brown, he's dual threat, knows when to run, knows when to throw it. He's been very effective. So I just want to give you your props there on that one. And then one of the ones that we kind of stumbled on, Kansas State has struggled ever since they lost to your Iowa State Cyclones in Dublin. They struggle, and then they beat North Dakota last week, and then they lose to Army this week. So, man, tough times for Chris Kleiman right now in Manhattan. So what are your thoughts on Kansas State and the Big 12?
Well, the Big 12 looks wide open again. We saw Arizona State go down this week. Mm-hmm. Iowa State's off to a terrific start in that conference. Even Kansas looked good for a period of time against Missouri.
And then your guy Dampier for Utah.
And Utah, Dampier, yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be hard for a Big 12 quarterback to win the Heisman, just because sometimes there's a little bit of bias there towards the SEC and the Big 10, I think. But you never know; it could happen. And
a Big 12 player won it last year.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's true. So I should remember that, right?
It's okay. He wasn't a quarterback though, but he played every other position on the field except for quarterback. So
exactly.
Yeah. Travis Hunter.
Yeah, Travis Hunter at Colorado. But I'm hoping, Dampier. I got him at a pretty big number to win the Heisman Trophy. We'll see. It's still very early on, but Big 12 looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, the Big 12's kind of become a fun conference to watch, right? Because week in and week out, you have no idea who's going to beat who, and it feels like they're going 7 and 8 deep with teams that could win that conference.
Well, it's like Baylor. They look terrible week 1, and then they come back and they beat SMU back by 2. They're down 2 touchdowns late. Come back and win that game in overtime. So, let's get to the NFL a little bit. We had a heck of a game before Scott's Bulldog Insider last night. Josh Allen, Fireball Zone, comes back from 15 down and stuns Lamar Jackson, and the Baltimore Ravens end up beating them by 1, right? Wasn't it a 1-point win off the field goal, something like that? But coming back from 15 down, they were trying 2-point conversions. They were another thing. They were trying 2-point conversions, kind of got themselves in trouble. But a heck of a win for Josh and the boys, huh?
It's early in the season, and there'll be a lot of people who say, okay, it's week 1, don't want to put too much into this. This is a big game because these two teams very likely to meet in the playoffs at some point, right? If in the divisional round, maybe in the AFC Championship game, right? And if you have the same identical regular season record, what's the first tiebreaker?
Head-to-head.
Head-to-head. And the Bills already going to have that tiebreaker advantage, right? And so that means if, they end up with the same record and they meet in the playoffs, I mean, that game's going to be in Buffalo. So just like that, a possible meeting between these two teams in the playoffs swings 6 or 7 points. I mean, I think that's what I would give that home field to, especially early January in Buffalo.
It's gonna be a little cold.
I mean, the Ravens are used to playing in cold weather too, but that's not an easy place to win, in Buffalo at that time. So, I mean, that's a huge comeback, in week 1 for the Bills. And you kind of feel like, okay, I know it's a regular season game, so I don't want to go crazy here, and it's week 1, but it's like the Ravens have all the talent, right? They, on paper, they look almost like the best team in the league, going into the season. And with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, I mean, it's like they have all the pieces, right?
They do.
And you're like, are they going to be able to put it together? Are they going to be able to win 3 huge games, come January, and win that Lombardi trophy,
right.
I think they are. I think they will. I'm a huge believer in Lamar Jackson, and, I love his talent. I love watching him play, everything else. I think they will get there at some point, right?
Okay.
But, every time that you stumble again in a game like this, the more doubts kind of creep in.
Sure. Like I said, the Ravens were getting ready to ice that game, and then Derrick Henry fumbles. Really changed the whole momentum at that point. And, I don't understand why they went away from the Lamar Jackson runs, because he was carving them up. They could not stop Lamar with his feet. And then I know Derrick had a big game too, but they could not stop Lamar. They get onto third downs, and Lamar would always get the first. So a little questionable, some play calling there by the Ravens late in the game, but you got to give Josh Allen and the boys a lot of credit. I know our former general manager, Matt Rosenfeld, was very excited last night on the post-game chat that we have. So
I'll say this.
Got a couple booms on there, we'll just say. So.
I'll say this. You bring up a good point. I love it when teams in that situation, right, where if you can get a first down, you're probably going to win the game, right? Like, so the Ravens have the lead.
Yeah.
I love it when teams say, you know what? We're not going to get conservative here. We're going to just kind of run our normal offense. We're going to go out and win the game. You know what I'm saying? And not just kind of like try to drip the clock all the way out, especially when you have an offense like the Ravens do. Yeah, like I agree. Get Lamar on the perimeter, right? Put the defense in a bind. Even let him throw. A first down throw in that situation, I don't think it's the end of the world, because as we've seen in the NFL, with a guy like Josh Allen in the Bills offense, like if they have a minute and a half left on the clock,
it's eternity.
It doesn't really matter if they have timeouts or not.
Yeah.
In my opinion, right?
They move it.
Go out, win the game. Like, don't just get conservative, try to drip the clock down, and drain the clock. Maybe I love it when I see a first down throw in those situations. There's some kind of, deception on first down, and it usually works in those situations. So, I think the Ravens are probably kicking themselves this morning for letting one get away.
Absolutely. A couple other games really quick in the NFL just to cover. The Niners and the Rams both get late, thrilling wins.
You're calling the Rams a thrilling win.
It was
14-9 battle, a thrilling win.
But the Texans were driving. They were driving for the winning touchdown, and the Rams had to come through.
He's a fan of defense, folks. He's a fan of defense.
Former Colorado linebacker Nate Landman gets the turnover. So
now the truth comes out why it was a thrilling win.
I had vested interest in that one. Watching we called him the Hammer back then when he was at Colorado. The Hammer got the turnover, the late turnover, and then of course the Niners, which we'll get to on Scotty's wager. The Niners with a late touchdown.
Bad beat there for me.
Bad beat for Scotty. We'll see it shortly here. But what are your thoughts on those two? And then we'll go to
I didn't get to see much of the Rams game. Yeah. I'll be honest. Probably a good sign considering the offense that you have in theory, with Stafford and Devontae and Nakua and all those guys, that if you can hold the Texans to 9 points, that's a good sign going forward for the Rams.
Good. And how about the Niners, though?
The Niners, I saw the end of that game.
Okay. The bad beat.
The old Sam Darnold kind of showing up at the end there, right, with the fumble. I mean, yes, you could say not his fault, but at the same time, you got to be a little aware there in the pocket in that situation. Plus, the way that the Niners scored on the previous possession, where the DB looked like he had an interception, just kind of misplayed it, and the Niners score there. But that's another game like that, Dean. Like in this case, a divisional game, where the NFL sometimes just turns on 3 or 4 plays in a given game, any NFL game, and the Niners got the big plays when they needed it, and now look at them. They're in great shape, getting a big road win in the division to start the season. I know the Seahawks were probably the 4th choice in that division, but we don't know. We don't know. Maybe the Seahawks will be a serious contender this year. We don't know. That's the great thing about the NFL. And what a leg up you have early on by stealing one on the road there.
Absolutely. And then the Eagles escape on Thursday night, but a good win for Scott, which we'll show in a minute. He beat me in our Eagles-Cowboys war of bets. And then Aaron Rodgers turning back the clock, yesterday against his old team, the Jets. And then the Chiefs losing in Brazil to the Chargers. So any thoughts on those 3 games before we get into our money plays?
Well, I think it's cool to see Aaron Rodgers having success, I just think it's fun. It's interesting, right? The more storylines we have, Aaron Rodgers, now playing for the Steelers, going up against his former team, lighting them up, getting a win. I mean, that's great. That's great. That's what we love. That's what we love to talk about in sports. And I've said, I don't get all the Aaron Rodgers vitriol that's out there over the years, right? Yeah, he kind of marches to the beat of his own drummer, for sure, but you know what? What has he ever done in any way that's been in any way negative, really, to be honest with you?
No, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback to be. So.
Yeah. I mean, he says some things every now and then that some people may shake their head at a little bit, right? But I love it. I think it's a great storyline for the NFL. I'd love to see the Steelers be competitive going late in the season. I mean, that would be great, having Aaron Rodgers in the hunt.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into our money plays. All right, Scotty. Well, September is off to a fast and furious start. So here's what Scott did over the last couple of shows we've got. Quite a bit of yellow on there. You know, he's kind of win one, lose one. You know, he got a kind of couple tough beats in that Texas game. Got the Baylor game. The Kansas-Missouri over was an easy one. And then the San Diego State one, man, 2 bad beats on that. A push on the Iowa State, and then the Seahawks. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, San Diego State, I'd say +1.5. Not the greatest bet I've ever made. I had some reservations about that one right after I made it, but the under there could have hit. Texas was in position to get that cover. They were up 28-0 at one point in the first half, and then even at 28-7, they were driving in the final minute, and Arch threw a pick from inside the 15 to San Jose State. So that was a tough one, and then on the game bet as well. You know, they had trouble. They had trouble in the second half. They hold San Jose State scoreless in the second half, but they're only able to score 10 themselves.
Right.
You know, Arch, it's hit and miss with him right now. I mean, sure, the numbers look good at the end of it, but having watched the first half of that game, you know, it's still a work in progress, I would say, with Arch Manning at this point. So I'm sure he'll continue to get better. You see the raw talent here and there, but we'll see. But it cost me on Saturday.
Congrats on Dallas. Got to say that. You beat me in that one. The +8.5 was a good one.
I mean, I got the pending J.J. McCarthy tonight with 15+ rushing yards. Seahawks was a rough one. I got 3.5 there, and they're tied late, and, you know, or they're up 3 late. And it looks like a pick in the end zone, and then the Niners get a touchdown to go up 4, and then the Seahawks get inside the 10 the other way, and then a fumble at the end of the game. So, I mean, that one was a rough one.
All right, so there's the pending, and here's Scott's new play. He's got one for you right now. Maybe another.
I took a look. I took a quick look. I haven't had much time to look at a bunch of plays. I'll try to get some more for us on Thursday's show. But this one jumped out to me, so I wanted to give it out right now. I'm expecting Kansas State to bounce back. At Arizona, you're getting points with the Wildcats, the preseason favorite in the Big 12 in Tucson. I need to see it more from Brent Brennan and Arizona before I can truly believe that, you know what, they're going to be able to knock off a team like the Wildcats. So I would lean Kansas State on that one. I'll give it out as a play. I want to put whatever it is, 56 on that, I think, to win 50 there, not 112. But
okay.
Yeah. So -112. So to win 50, so it'll be 56 to win 50 on that one.
Got it. Okay, I will fix that. So, all right, no worries. All right, for myself, a lot of hit and miss last week. I did hit the one parlay with Bowling Green, South Florida, and Iowa State and Fresno State. So that's really what kind of saved me. Hit a small tennis parlay. Not so great on the price pick stuff. So anyway, I did up my total, though, to 1107.17, which is what we're trying to do. We start with $1,000 of fictitious money, and we're trying to get into positive numbers. So here's what I got for this week. Again, another 7 plays. I always try to shoot for it. So tonight we got Vikes Bears. I'm going to say
Super 7.
over 43.5. I think you know, each team's just got to kind of get over 20. I like what Scott did with the J.J. McCarthy rushing yards, but also included some Justin Jefferson receiving yards, Rome Odunze receiving yards, and T.J. Hawkinson receiving yards. So a little player prop there. Couple baseballs, Cubs, Brewers, Mariners, money lines, Padres, Giants, Red Sox, just because of the pitchers in particular. So, yeah, I mean, you know, like... Woo's going for the Mariners, for example, who's been super hot. So WNBA kind of cooled down a little bit, but I'm trying to go for it. I've got Dream Moneyline, Liberty Moneyline, and Lynx, 3 big favorites tonight and tomorrow night. So we'll see what happens there. And then a player prop with Brianna Stewart, Kiki Irifan, former USC player, Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquel Jones, and Sonia Citron. So, and then another WNBA play. Price picks. Just kind of threw some receiving overs over there. I want to mention my man Nacho out there. He's going for under 18.5 MAP 1 and 2 head strikes tonight against Magicos. So my man
could be Mexicos.
It could be or Magicos. You know, either way, it's probably Mexicos. You know, Scott's always got my pronunciations on lock. So I'm rooting for my man Nacho tonight. So this is a big one for me. I'm hoping to get this one home. Scotty, we got about 45 seconds. Any last thoughts?
I love the Super 7 there from Dean. You know, there's so many plays on the board that it's hard to kind of digest all of it. So take a screen grab if you're at home.
Screen grab it, please, guys.
Screen grab it and
use what you want of it. You don't have to parlay it all together.
I will say, you know, when it comes to the football, Dean is usually very, very solid. There's a track record there over the last few years.
Yeah, did hit a couple over the weekend. So
in some college football pools that he's done. And so, as you saw, his number's going up. My number's going down right now. So we'll try to bounce back in week 2.
We'll see. Well, anyway, we're back on Thursday. We're going to have a lot more plays for you. On behalf of my man, Scott, I am Dean. This has been the Beem and Dean Show.